Okay, I think maybe it's a good time to start now. I guess it's about 2:05 already, I guess. Okay, so again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for showing interest and being a part of our PSU Open Mobility again 2022 program today. And this event is the last, actually, is the last of six to be held in this month in March. And today we have the opportunity to listen our invited speaker again discussing researching English medium instruction. This session would not be possible without the support of our moderator. So I would like to thank you to Dr. Rumro Chaban for accepting the invitation and managing the session today. Dr. Chaban obtained a PhD in applied linguistics from University Brunei Darussalam. And currently, he is working as an English lecturer at Pattani University, Thailand. And his research area are second language acquisition, collocations, language learning strategies, and teaching English in EFL context. I would now like to welcome Dr. Shaban on board. May I hand the microphone to you now?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much as a Professor Dr. Yusuf Bunsod, the project manager for the introduction. No? As a moderator, I would like to greet you all once again with Sawadee Krab and good morning, good afternoon, or evening for those in different part of the world. Let me welcome once again to our section of PSU Open Mobility 2022 under the topic Researching EMI, English Medium Instruction. And the invited speaker of today's section is Professor Dr. Nicola and Galloway, University of Glasgow, United Kingdom. Her biodata is very fascinating. Let me read for you. She's a senior lecturer, publications lead, and program lead for the Master of Science and Master of Education TESOL at the University of Glasgow. She is an applied linguist with an interest in the pedagogical implications of the use of English as a global lingua franca and the internationalization of higher education in non-Anglophone contexts. Her work is mainly in the growing subfields of global Englishes and EMI in higher education, and she has published extensively on these topics, 7 books, 16 chapters, 4 research reports, and 23 articles. Forthcoming books include one on the internationalization of the higher education and a new Rowlett Handbook of Teaching English as an International Language. Before we're gonna begin our section, let me tell you about the outline of the section in brief. Once again, after the presentation, Q&A or section. If you have some questions, please write down in the chat box of our Zoom, or you can ask in person during the live Q&A. And next, after that, we provide the links, fill out the form. There are 2 forms, the evaluation form and the certificate one. The project manager will send you the links later after the talk section. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to go on board? Now it's time to have fun. So I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Nicola and Galloway at University of Glasgow, United Kingdom, with the topic Researching English Medium Instruction. Please welcome.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Give me a moment just to share my screen. And as with yesterday, if anything happens with the connection, just let me know. You can see it? Good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. So this is my 4th talk of the week. I don't know if you were at the other talks. I started off in the week with an overview of global Englishes, and then we looked at researching global Englishes. Yesterday, English medium instruction, and today, researching English medium instruction. The focus of today's lecture is a little different to the research lecture that I did earlier in the week. I'm going to present a couple of my own studies and outline some areas that I think need to be studied. And then we're going to have some time for discussion. And then I'm going to focus a little more on curriculum evaluation, particularly because yesterday I noted the importance of working with ELT practitioners as well. So we'll look at the EMI curriculum and how that can inform research. So I've been involved as an EMI practitioner. I mentioned this yesterday. I was an ESP EAP coordinator in one of Japan's first EMI universities. I was in an international business department. I actually worked with Heath Rose, so we worked there together. And I knew nothing about international business at all. I had this big textbook to take home, learn the vocabulary, the genres, and it was really quite challenging as well. So I became interested in the growing phenomenon of EMI as a practitioner, but also because of my interests in the globalization of English and particularly the pedagogical implications as well. So I've been involved in doing a number of case study work. I've worked quite extensively for the British Council on a number of funded research projects, but also as a consultant as well. I was commissioned to edit a literature review for them and also for a position paper on the British Council's position on EMI. I also worked as a consultant for the University of Tokyo, so to develop 2 MOOCs. I'll talk a little about a MOOC that I'm doing in Indonesia at the moment for teacher training in higher education in relation to EMI. I also lead an online academic network that was established this week, and I'm going to present more at the end of the talk. It used to be called Teaching English and Teaching in English in Global Context. It's now called ELINET. So there's a little, that's it. Education, Languages and Internationalization Network. But the reason I wanted to keep the original name here is because it's this focus on teaching in English for the EMI. So we'll come back to that at the end of the talk here. So I think it's important when we're thinking about researching the field of EMI. It is a growing field of research. There's a lot of calls recently for more interdisciplinary work. If you think we're looking at the driving forces behind these top-down policies, so drawing on methods from political science, for example, language policy, planning, so that we see calls now for a need for more interdisciplinary work to explore this phenomenon. But, sorry, thought my phone was on silent. You may have heard a ping there. But really, the point I want to make on this slide is that even though EMI research is growing, it is a growing field of research, it still hasn't caught up with this fast-paced policy implementation that's really taking place in a very top-down fashion. There's a real lack of large-scale needs analysis, taking into account the attitudes, as well as the impact on stakeholders, as well as the resource infrastructure to ensure that this is a successful and sustainable policy as well. So I was interested in doing a needs analysis in East Asia, and then the replication study was conducted in Vietnam and Thailand. This was funded by the British Council, and I used the same method. So it was a replication study, as I mentioned, of the East Asia study, and you can find the link to it here. I was interested in exploring EMI in Thailand and Vietnam by addressing a number of research questions, really to make sense of what was going on and what support was needed and how people felt about this growing trend. So the first research question was really to look at, well, how is EMI being approached? How is the policy being implemented? And we'll see that it really was being implemented in very diverse ways. How are English and other languages used? So the language aspect, language use, language policy, this relates to my interest in global Englishes as well. Why is it being implemented? What are the main driving forces? And what are the key perceived benefits, as well as staff and student attitudes towards EMI? I used a questionnaire with about 1,400 students and 231 teachers. So it's quite a large scale study. We had 97 interviews and 14 focus groups as well. And I published this with my research assistant, Carrie Sam. So the results that we found then were that approaches to EMI varied. Programs had varying language proficiency requirements, not only the level, but also the tests that they used as well. Varied approaches to curriculum design, some transplanted Western curricula into the universities, other borrowed elements, some developed their own materials, and very varied approaches to language support provision as well. Some universities provided self-access study options for students. Most, if they were providing language support, it was only really provided in the first 1 to 2 years, but it was very minimal as well. There was very minimum training for staff, which was a real concern, and that our colleagues also expressed concerns about this in the institutions that have had the term in-house training for staff, but this was not extensive. And particularly, there was a lot of criticism over borrowing foreign curricula in Vietnam. In terms of language in their reported English usage, which was really quite interesting, and there was this tension between the use of language as well. There was a tension between teachers and students' beliefs that an English immersion setting would support language learning and that use of the mother tongue would improve content comprehension. The EMI content lecturers used their mother tongue as a useful pedagogic tool to help explain the difficult concepts when delivering the content. Students, however, wanted the class to be English only and saw any use of their mother tongue as an indication of their EMI content lecturers' limited English proficiency. So there was a real tension here in attitudes towards language use. But we did find that there was a supported limited use of the L1 and EMI classes. So there was L1 usage in the class. In terms of the driving forces, EMI was seen to improve future job opportunities, English learning opportunities. We saw in the lecture yesterday that in contexts such as Thailand, EMI is very closely linked with goals to improve English proficiency and also study abroad opportunities as well. We did find a difference in beliefs about language learning as a motivation for enrolling. So the students' main reason for enrolling in the programs was to learn English. And this differed to how the content lecturers believed students were motivated to be on the EMI program. We found that there's national, institutional, but also personal motivations for the expansion of EMI. And this is important because it relates to this point about EMI being a very top-down endeavour, but bottom-up forces are also at play here. This belief, this English-only ideology that the best way to improve my English is just to completely learn everything in English. We found fairly positive attitudes towards EMI, particularly in relation to the perceived language learning benefits. However, students and staff also saw a number of challenges, particularly language-related challenges. But again, we saw disagreement amongst the stakeholders in how to address these challenges. So we really see some tension here between the different stakeholders involved. So we concluded in this study then that the main implications or recommendations were a need to look at entrance requirements. Teachers were faced with teaching very, very mixed ability classes. I mentioned yesterday that students that were not able to enter the Thai medium programme because of their academic ability, but they could afford to pay for the EMI course, were often admitted onto the EMI course. So teachers had not only students with varying levels of English proficiency, but also academic ability as well. So it really calls for more research into appropriate entrance requirements to EMI. What does it mean to be competent in English, to be able to undertake your studies in English? And this relates to the use of large-scale proficiency tests based on native English norms, for example. We also have to remember that EMI is very discipline-specific as well. It also calls for more research into the provision of language support for students, and they need to give further consideration to different types of support, both at the start. So we found that some support was provided in the first 2 years, but throughout the entire program. It also calls for more work. Goals are becoming blurred, and I focused on this yesterday as well. Does the content teacher also have to help students with their language skills and teach ESP? Does the English teacher also require knowledge of the student's subject as well? So we're asking quite a lot of those teachers that are working in these contexts. How can they work together? How can we draw on their respective expertise and skills? And how can we provide context-specific support? We see a number of EMI training programs emerging now. EMI Oxford, for example, that's not affiliated with University of Oxford, but the name. But are these really context-specific? And we need training also for both content and also language instructors. A lot of the EMI training to date has focused on the content lecturer. But we also need to support the language teachers that are seeing an ever-expanding role as they enter the world of EMI. We also called for a need for more work into establishing clear programme goals in EMI. We need clarity on the roles of all instructors involved, but also on the purpose of the programme as well. What are the intended goals of the EMI programme? What are the main learning outcomes? We also called for more research that explores the possible detrimental impact on the use of foreign curricula and materials. I gave an example yesterday of a Thai food science technology student, I think from Mahidol University, that was very concerned that the materials they were using were all American textbooks, and they were very, very concerned about their ability to work in Thailand in the future. They may have improved their English proficiency, although we have a lack of research that's actually measuring whether EMI does have a positive impact on students' English proficiency. But the students were concerned about their future and were actually doubling up on their own workloads and auditing the Thai medium course. We called for a need for a more inward-looking approach to higher education reforms. Rather than looking outward and adopting Western curricula and Western materials and really equating internationalization with Englishization, there's a need for a more inward-looking approach to internationalizing. And we also called for more research into language use and language policies, and how can we establish more flexible language policies that value the use of the student's mother tongue and translanguaging and have a more global Englishese perspective. So before I move on to the next study, I'm going to give you just a few more findings, and then I'm going to put you in a breakout room just to discuss these main findings and recommendations and how you think they may inform future research in the field. I'll go back and I'll let you take a photo of these slides, because when we go into the breakout rooms, you will lose access to the slides. But 2 further points from this study is that we also called for more research into educational access and equity in relation to EMI. And this was really in the minds of students in Thailand as well. They spoke about this extensively. There's very high fees associated with EMI programs, and this affords privileges to those working on them as well, often higher salaries for those teaching on the EMI programs. What we saw was that those professors that had obtained their doctorate in a so-called English-speaking country were offered a higher salary because there was an assumption that because they had studied in a certain country, they could therefore teach on the EMI program. So we need to conduct research into the relationship between EMI as a gatekeeper to quality education. Even the name's international program, high quality program in Vietnam for the EMI program, high quality program. So this idea that to be high quality has to be in English, not in the mother tongue. So we need more research into this, and also the potential that EMI has, that the growth in EMI has to widen the gap between groups in society, as well as between different types of universities within the country as well. We also called for the need for more research-informed policy. The evidence base is growing, but EMI at the moment is not evidence-informed policy making, and this is a real concern. We need to conduct research not only on how EMI is being implemented on a global level, but the needs of key stakeholders involved in these processes, as well as the feasibility of policy implementation, the resources, the belief systems, training, language support available, the availability of teachers, for example. And we really need to pay more attention to quality assurance, and that I'll focus on that in part 2 of the lecture. And lastly, the last point, we called for a lot of research in this project. They need to conduct research on the relationship between EMI and improved student English proficiency. This is one of the key main perceived benefits here. But we have limited research to date on whether this is beneficial, as well as the impact that EMI has on content learning. So these are the main findings. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms if you want to take a quick picture, or even just remember a couple of them. So entrance requirements, language support, teacher training, goals. The EMI curriculum, language use, language policies, educational access, equity, and the need for evidence-informed policymaking. Okay, so I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. And we'll give you maybe about 7 minutes just to discuss these. I've made the rooms quite big today, just in case some people don't join rooms. So there's more chance that someone will have someone else in their room.
It seems there is only one person in room 5.
Right,
Maybe,
someone else joined.
yeah, maybe move to room 1, I guess. No, 2 people already now, room 5.
Ah, someone joined, that's good. that actually wasn't my planned breakout room, but as I was talking, I thought this is quite a lot. It's actually quite good to stop and take stock. So I've got more activities later, but oh, someone's unassigned.
Yeah, some people still not join. Okay, Vilevan Gaje. Sorry for inconvenience to join the breakout room now. Okay.
Or maybe some people, it's not suitable for them to join. Oh, we've got someone from Pakistan here. Hello, Ali Mahar.
Yes.
Maybe the rooms are a little big. That's typical. Yesterday, the rooms were small. Give them, I think I'll give them a few more minutes.
Yes. I think they need more time to discuss.
I'm just looking for something's missing on one of my slides.
And regarding your coming trip to Thailand, how long are you planning to stay in Thailand in November?
I'm not sure yet. So maybe about 8 days, maybe 8 or 9 days. So the idea is I was given some funding to come out to talk to different places about Elinet. And
Okay.
yeah, so to talk about how we can set up the group and how we can work together, how we can maybe do some work together with this. So I'll be looking to set up a series of meetings. So I'll be in touch about that. But yeah, I mean, I can definitely do some talks and things as well when I'm out.
So that means it's a good opportunity for our Thai Elena team to meet up to one another with you then, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So
maybe we
hopefully
can
we'll be
organize
able
somewhere in Thailand, either in Bangkok or outside Bangkok, to meet up, to discuss, to talk, to share or whatever. I think it's a good, yeah, it is a good opportunity to meet up. Yeah.
yeah, so hopefully we'll have a chance.
Yes. And as I have discussed yesterday, I mean, if you have enough time, maybe you can come down to the southern part of Thailand. In that case, I can organize some talk for you, maybe to different lecturers and students from different university in certain part of Thailand regarding including Alienate or global English or EMI or whatever. Yeah, and we also can use that opportunity, you know, if we, for example, if we design like a questionnaire in advance, for example, you know, we can distribute a questionnaire to the, you know, to the participant who participate in, you know, in your presentation as well, to see their perception, you know, regarding global Englishes or EMI or whatever. I think that's the
Oh,
question
that
I
would
would
be
share.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I'd be really happy to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be good to administer the surveys and also to get feedback on these talks as well, and then we can follow up on that.
Yes. After this, I will talk to the university staff who are responsible for the evaluation, you know, project, and then I can ask for the, you know, evaluation results, and then if I got it, I will send it to you. But let me check if it is in Thai or in English. I'm not sure.
It might be in Thai. But yeah, and then we can build on that and then go forward maybe with a series of ELINet related events as
Yes.
well. Right. Do you think that's enough time?
Yes, I think you can bring them back. But it seems some of them still discussing. Some of them still discussing. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, actually, when you bring them back, you can, like yesterday, you know, you can ask them, you know, what do they learn, what do they discuss from the group, yeah, like a reflection from each
I
group,
like
maybe. Yeah, I will like. I mean, I will. Like, it's good to listen to their voice. I mean, I guess. สวัสดีครับอาจารย์องค์อาจสวัสดีครับ
ครับสวัสดีครับ
ครับสวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับอาจารย์สบายดีนะครับ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ yes
Okay, everybody's back. So, would you like to share with us what you discussed?
ครับ
Any feedback from your breakout rooms? Were any of the findings interesting to you or any of the implications? Anybody like to share? You can use the chat if you don't want to turn on your microphone. I can't see the chat at the moment though.
Professor?
Okay. Now, Dr. Nicola, yeah, I want to introduce what I am doing now. I'm going to research into the corner standard for the EMI international students in China. And the parent training objectives include 4 parts. The first one, the academic level of the students, and the second part, the knowledge and understanding of China, and the third part is language ability, both English and Chinese, and the last part is global and culture and intercultural competence. So when I research into the EMI, should I cancel the third part, the second part about knowledge and understanding of China?
So you've got three parts. So the last one was intercultural understanding and intercultural competence. The first one was
I want research only three parts, because the second part, knowledge and understanding of China, that isn't related too much to EMI course, EMI programs. I think.
I mean, I think that I was quite concerned in Vietnam that some of the universities were even considering, so in many of the EMI universities, the one course that remained to be taught in Vietnamese was Ho Chi Minh thought, but some universities were considering teaching this topic in English. And I gave an example yesterday in, I think, King Mon Tut University, of a Thai architecture professor that was very concerned that he was being asked to teach this topic in English because he felt that certain aspects of this had to be taught in Thai and it related to Thai language and Thai culture. So I think your second focus on, it depends what your goal is and what you want to find out and what the aim is, but I do think that that focus is relevant, or how EMI is impacting on students' knowledge of their own culture as well.
So when I do research on EMI policies, so I should include or exclude the second part about knowledge and understanding of China.
I can't tell you what you should exclude, but it depends on your goals. What is it? What's the purpose of the study? What is it that you want to do? But certainly, if you're interested in the impact of EMI on China, then I would say that some aspect of that is relevant. But it really depends what you want to focus on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I don't know. We can maybe chat more. I'm not sure if that was helpful. Anybody else?
Professor, excuse me.
Hello.
Can you hear? Yes. Yes, my name is Mandy, and I'm right now teaching Chinese in Thailand right now. So I also come from China, but right now I'm doing the PhD here, so I'm conducting the research. So how about the research, like the relationship between EMI and the improved English proficiency? About, I think like the English proficiency not only includes like speaking, but also reading and writing as well, right? So if we just conduct the research about one aspect, we may not know if it's like effective or not, right? For example, when we have like test-based teaching instruction, then to ask to have the student to get past some tests, right? So EMI may not be effective in this case because it cannot guarantee the students' English proficiency scores, right? But if we just use the EMI in the classroom context to let the students speak English, listen to the English, then the students may get improved in listening and speaking, but may not improve reading and writing. So we are not sure about the results, right? So that's why we need to separate to conduct the research, right? What do you think, Professor?
Yeah, I think it's a very good point. And we do see an increased number of studies, so particularly in the Japanese context on ESP, and ESP courses have been found to be one of the main predictors of success in EMI courses. But I think that it would be helpful to look at the wider literature in English for specific academic purposes as well. So I mentioned this yesterday, the need to go, a lot of research has been conducted in Anglophone contexts in the field of ESP and EAP. So I would suggest looking at that literature, particularly in genre-based approaches, for example.
Yeah.
EMI is very discipline specific, and I think that that's often overlooked, not only context specific, but discipline specific as well. And if you think you've got different types of academic genres as well. And so at the moment, we're measuring students on one large scale proficiency test and assuming that they'll be able, but a science program is very different from a politics program as well. So they're not very good predictors of how students will survive in an EMI setting. but we do have a large body of work that's been conducted outside of EMI in Anglophone settings in the field of EAP and ESP. So I would suggest looking at that work. But I think that we do have a need for more. This assumption that EMI improves students' English skills needs a lot more further scrutiny and investigation. It's one of the key perceived benefits of EMI, but we've got very limited research that actually evidences if this is the case, if students' English does improve. And like you say, speaking, listening, but what about writing and reading as well? And also, what's the effect on their content knowledge as well? And how do we support students? Because again, this will vary according to the level of support. Some students are receiving support alongside their EMI programs. What I found in Thailand and Vietnam was students were spending their own money to take extra IELTS courses and things because the universities were not providing. So the students that could afford extra support were paying for this. So obviously their English skills are going to improve if they're seeking extra study. So I think there's so many factors involved here, but we really need to look at how to support our students in different disciplines. But have a look at the fields of EAP and ESP outside of EMI.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Did that answer your question?
I guess so, yeah. It's like we still need to more investigation, right? Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Professor, I have a question. Yeah, before I ask questions or maybe your suggestions, it's kind of like, let me give some kind of background. You know, actually, I kind of like have the background BA English and then master degree in English, but for PhD, I changed to human resource and organization development. But it's EMI is still one of the interesting topic for me. You know, so I kind of like would like to focus on, you know, kind of like a survey, probably the attitudes or maybe the perceptions of the teacher, like the teacher's point of view, because based on my experience, I used to be a lecturer and in the university in Thailand. And then so they use what we call English as a medium of instruction, like EMI. Can you hear me, right? Yeah, and also
Yeah, you went quiet a couple of times.
can you hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and also one of my colleagues at that time, you know, he taught in the fields of public health, right? It's because of the policy of the university, kind of like a you know, encourage or force them to teach, you know, the subject in English, but they actually they are knowledgeable in the field, right? In the public health, like which bachelor and master degree, but conducted in Thai, they learn in Thai version. But when they have to kind of like teach, you know, and transfer the knowledge, you know, of the public health, right, for the student by using English as a medium of instruction in the classroom, that is the problem, because like there are lots of, you know, things. It's a big responsibility and challenge they face, because like in the classroom there are some group of the international students from Philippines or even some English native speaking country, and they kind of reflect themselves, like they cannot, you know, transfer or explain some kind of concept clearly, and at the end of the class the student evaluate that, you know, the teaching performance of the course, like for this teacher, is quite not very good at all, because the student don't understand, you know, that the teacher try to explain the you know, the concept relating to the public health. Yeah, so I think like it's very interesting for me in terms like you know, the concept of professional development, training program, something, you know, in the perspective of the lecturer, the teacher, right? Yeah, what is your suggestions about these things, Professor?
Well, that's what we're going to move on to next, teacher training and professional development. So very good timing. I think that you've brought up a lot of issues there, that sometimes the students can be more so-called proficient in English than the EMI content lecturer. It's very concerning, the number of criticisms that we see in the literature and in the studies on criticisms of content lecturers' English proficiency. And I think, again, it relates to how these are being measured according to native speaker benchmarks again. So I think that a lot of awareness raising is needed on what does it mean to be a competent? I mean, these, in many cases, these are extremely not just extremely competent academics, sometimes Nobel Prize winning professors publishing, you know, very, very complex research, and they're suddenly being told they've got to start teaching in English, and they may be publishing in English as well. So a lot of pressure being placed on them. We're asking a lot of the EMI content lecturer, and then we have to weigh up. So some universities are employing young native speaking graduates with a science background, and so what do we place more value on here as well? But I think also what's problematic is that not only the criticisms of English proficiency, but a lot of the EMI content training has focused on English and English proficiency. Again, this places demands on the ELT practitioners who are being brought in to help with this, but it's more than just proficiency. That, you know, what is good pedagogy for an EMI classroom as well? Mixed ability classrooms, you know, working with an English teacher. So I think that we need a lot more support for teachers, but also a lot more scrutiny into how we're defining a good EMI teacher as well. So I look forward to seeing your research in this area. It's very much needed. And we'll come back to
Thank
this
you
in the
so
next
much.
part. So
Yes, thank you.
Study 2 was looking at teacher training and professional development. So as I mentioned, I was brought in Japan and at the moment in Indonesia to develop a MOOC for EMI professional development. So these MOOCs I'll just present the one on Indonesia at the moment, is tailor-made resources for Indonesian vocational universities. And we wanted to build on our own research that highlights the challenges to EMI policy implementation, but particularly the need for training also for ELT practitioners. So the fact that the intended audience is both the EMI content lecturer, but also the ELT practitioner as well. And we also focus on collaboration and team teaching. EMI presents a number of challenges for both types of teachers, as I mentioned yesterday. So one of the goals of our MOOCs was to develop an online database of resources and also the delivery of a MOOC. So to develop a professional development program, and my colleagues are actually in Indonesia this week doing some teacher development workshops with the Indonesian participants. So we had quite a big team, and what we've tried to do here, and this relates to the earlier question about measuring language proficiency and EAP, we've tried to balance our team with a mix of expertise from TESOL, EMI, but also in the field of EAP as well. So we want to draw on that valuable body of scholarship. And then we have varied expertise on the Indonesian side as well. We had various phases to our MOOC development. As academics, we always want to start with a needs analysis. And I remember when I was working with a software developer to develop an app, as an academic, I wanted to take a long time doing literature review, and they just wanted to get their product to market very quick. We work in very different ways. But we felt it was very important that our MOOC was needs-based. So we started, that was for a breakout room, we started with a literature review exploring the spread of EMI and in the Indonesian context, but also on teacher training, the challenges that teachers are presented with in EMI as well. And then we had a questionnaire and some focus groups with some Indonesian content lecturers and EAP lecturers. And we also had a MOOC advisory panel, and we also had meetings with user groups as well, so that the people that will use our MOOC. So we wanted to do a large-scale needs analysis to inform our design. We then used the results of this analysis to design the MOOC curriculum and the syllabus. We recruited 6 consultants to give lectures based on the topics in the syllabus, 3 Indonesian consultants and 3 UK consultants, so experts in EMI, as well as members of the team as well. We also wanted our MOOC to be very, very context specific. So we have real life classroom observations. These were from the 8 observations in total from 2 vocational universities. So the lectures are accompanied with little snippets, if you like, of real life classroom observations for people to work with, and also interviews with lecturers in context as well, so they're able to share good practice. So this was our attempt. It's still a work in progress. £50,000 is not a lot to develop a MOOC, and we've encountered a lot of issues. So if any of you get involved in designing a MOOC, please get in touch and I will tell you all the challenges that we have encountered with this. It's a lot of work. And our research assistant, Mike Budensky, has been wonderful and working very, very hard. So after collating all of this material, the lectures, we then started working on the materials as well. And then at the moment, we're going to run a pilot. We're doing the professional development workshops, and then we hope to launch the MOOC in a few months. Looks like this. We have an introduction to EMI, so a critical examination of the spread of EMI. The key driving forces, the perceived benefits, but also the downsides of EMI we felt was important as well. An overview of EMI in the Indonesian context, a look at materials design, so how to design appropriate materials for EMI, proficiency, I think here is actually pedagogy. I think that's, and I think the web developers have made a mistake here, and training is actually translanguaging. I can see an error here in the mock-up of the MOOC. We also have a module here on engaging students in the classroom, and one on teacher development, developing teacher agency. So a focus here on action research. So you can see here that each module has a clear rationale, so that it's evidence-based, research-based. We have just some examples here of the questionnaire results, and then some of the key findings from the literature review as well. And these were used to develop the module. So we have the needs analysis results, the literature review results, and then the implications that this has for the syllabus. This was then used to design the aims of the module and the intended learning outcomes. So it was quite a big process here. This is one of the modules here. I'm not sure if I can. So this is Nirmala, our lead in Indonesia, and she gives an overview here in the lecture on the current practice of EMI in higher education. Another colleague here who will talk about PBL, so project-based learning for the Indonesian context. So we've got lots of different lectures. And let me just see if I can show this here. Hold on. Be nice for you to. Well, it's not letting me. Just one moment. That's unfortunate. It's not letting me show. I wanted to show a little video. We've also got, so teaching varied classrooms, mixed ability students as well, outlining the challenges. So we've got lots of different topics that we focus on in our teacher training.
Hi, I'm
This
Jim
one's
McKinley
working.
from University College London, talking with you about EMI teacher development through conducting research. In this second of 3 videos, I'll be talking about action research for EMI teacher development.
So that was Jim McKinley, and we also have a module here on teacher development as well. So to prepare teachers to conduct research in their own classroom, to do their own needs analysis as well. Each module has an introduction. So you'll see here we've got the introduction to the module. By completing this module, the learning outcomes here as well, the lecturers. And then at the bottom here, you'll see that our participants will also be exposed to a selection of interviews with ESP and EMI lecturers in context that are sharing good practice. So this has been quite a big project. This is what session A, developing materials, looks like. Key input 1 would be a needs analysis. And then the second lecture, adapting materials. And the third, introducing lecturers how to balance language and content in their classroom. We also felt it was very important to have forums as well as a number of tasks. And this enables the MOOC participants to build up a community of practice online and to learn from each other's contexts as well, and to share good practice, but also to be aware that teachers in other contexts are experiencing similar challenges as well, so they can use these forums to see the insights of their peers. And so the forum posts would look like this. You've got Samantha here, or Mike. Obviously, these are fake at the moment because we haven't had any participants. This is only launching in a couple of months, but they'll be able to see all the forum posts here. Okay, so that was the MOOC. I want to put you back in your breakout room just for a few minutes, just to discuss, what do you think of the usefulness of this then? Do you think that this context-specific training program is perhaps something that might be useful in your own context? And would you design this in a similar way, or would you take a different approach? I'm going to open your breakout rooms now. You might want to take a picture of this.
It seems there
I
is
better
only
get
one
a
person in room 5. Yeah.
I better get a move on. We've got a lot to cover. I'm just looking at all my slides. I've only got 25 minutes.
Mm. Room 4 is very interactive. Yeah, they have discussed a lot because my colleague, he's in
good.
the same office. Yeah, and I heard they discuss a lot in room 4.
Oh,
You
excellent.
can ask them after this, I guess.
I do like this idea of stopping and oh, good.
So far, were there lots of studies conducted with the high school students regarding EMI?
More in there's a lot in Hong Kong context, so looking at the transition, but I think obviously EMI is having a knock-on effect on immersion methods in the school context, but we need a transition to EMI, so the readiness of students for entering EMI programs. But I'm not aware of, I'm familiar with the Thai context in that respect.
Because
I
there are
can
many,
hear it.
because there, we can, because there are many high school educational institutions in the 3 southern part of Thailand. You know, they utilize EMI as a part of their school curriculum. And most of the students there, you know, they do not use Thai as their mother tongue, comparing to the majority of Thai students, but they use Bahasa Malay as their first language. And some of them use Arab as the second language, and Thai become the third one. Or maybe Bahasa Malay as the first one, and then Thai, and then Arabian, and then English. So it depends on the background of the student. So it seems like the majority of students who live in the southern part of Thailand, you know, they are diverse in terms of their linguistic backgrounds. They can speak more than 2 languages. Yeah, they can speak. Yeah, where I live, they can speak more than 2 or 3 languages. And sometimes English is become like their third or their fourth language, not the second language, comparing to the majority of Thai students. In another,
So, and translanguaging is accepted in the classroom then?
Yeah. That's one of the main research aims that I conducted with Rebecca, looking at the translanguaging, but it's just only in my university. Yeah.
Oh, I need to look at that study.
Yeah, actually we have just completed piling up the findings, and you know, and we are planning to submit the report to British Council soon, and after the British Council have, you know, approved, maybe it's going to launch online. In that case, I can send you as well.
Yeah, do that'd be great, and we'll have an interview with you on Elinet to introduce it as well, to launch it. Do you think that's long enough for the breakout rooms?
Based on room 4, they are still, you know, it seems like they are very, you know, they are enjoying actually. Maybe give them 1 more minute.
Yeah. I think my next few slides are quite quick. I've got another 40 slides. But they're quite quick.
Yeah, maybe you can, or maybe you can skip some slides, I guess.
Yeah, I'll skip some of the discussions, I think, until the end.
By the way, I mean, once you have said once you have your schedules of visiting Thailand, please share with me. Okay, in that case, I can plan, you know, something, maybe some event.
Yes.
You know? Yeah.
I will do in the next few weeks, definitely.
I mean, just want to see this possibility, you know, how to organize this session. Yeah.
No, that would be great. That would be great.
Yeah. because I remember when I organized the session for Will Baker, I invited the 7 or 8 university in certain parts of Thailand, and both teacher and student to join together.
That would be
great. Yeah,
fabulous,
that's great.
Yusuf, fabulous.
Yeah, and that's great. In order to advertise the Elinet network.
That would be, yeah, and we need quite a bit of time to organize that as well.
Maybe you can bring them back, I guess.
Yeah. Can you send me the names of the universities that might participate as well?
Okay, yes, I will send you the name of the university who participate in this session or in view session.
Who might participate in November?
Okay, sure. I will list you the name via the email later.
Share.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Does anybody want to share?
Maybe start from room number 4. Yeah,
So
they are very active. They are very active. They discuss a lot, many different aspects regarding EMI. So room number 4,
you mean
any volunteer?
okay. Yeah, I can volunteer, Professor. It's kind of like we shares about the what we try to define EMI. For me, I get confused too. Like in Thailand, we still have like the program we call international program, right? And then so all the program like 4 years study program like conducted entirely into English, 100% they say that, okay? And the tuition fee is very, very high. And the teacher get a very high incentive, the salary too. But another program, they say that it's kind of like bilingual program or kind of like a teaching English, for that subject matter for 70%. But the teachers can teach, in Thai around maybe 40 or 30%. Yeah, that is kind of like two different ideas, of the EMI, like international program and the bilingual program, or like 70% English or 30% English. It's another one that I still get confused. And another one is about because of the number of the student is kind of like a drop now, right? Decrease. And then so even some university, they provide the international program and then require the student applicant to submit the IELTS or TOEFL test, right? As a requirement, right? To make sure the student have English proficiency enough to fit in the program, to learn in English. But because of the number of student drop, right? They kind of like bend the rule a little bit, kind of accept, okay, come on, okay. They can accept all, right? To study first, right? And study first. And even they don't have the IELTS or TOEFL test, it's okay, it can be acceptable. They ask the student to do their admission test that they develop their own, right? But it's kind of like not equal, not equivalent to the IELTS or TOEFL. But when they get in, they pass fundamental courses for first year, but when they study in the second year, but focus more in their major program, right? And they face with the difficulty, they don't understand the subjects matter. Lots of students kind of like drop out the program. They just skip up and say goodbye and try to move to another university that teach like entirely in Thai, language. That is kind of thing that I have experience, and then some of my colleagues and share from the one university in Thailand. Yeah.
No, I think we do need to look at student dropout rates, the students transitioning from the EMI program or the international program to the Thai program as well. I think that you've raised again so many issues at the ground level there, that the challenges teachers are facing as well, that with the drop in student numbers, if students, so you've got some students with a very high level on the test and some that haven't even taken it as well, but the university needs the students, they can pay the fees, so they're on the, so teachers are really presented with a number of challenges in these classes. And we also have to think about the impact this is having on their content learning as well. And will we be producing graduates that are competent engineers or competent scientists, for example? So I think that there is a real need for ground level research to inform policy, that this top-down approach to implementing the policy, or it's not very cost effective as well, and huge amounts of investments are being put into EMI as well, and it may actually have very detrimental effects. But how do we communicate that to the policymakers as well? And I'll come back to that in part 3 as well. How do we engage with different stakeholders? Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Okay, let's move on then to, I'll just talk for another 15 minutes. I do have about 40 slides, but I won't take any longer than 20 minutes. So part 2 then. So again, a nice movement from your last point on teacher training now to entrance requirements. We need more research into entrance requirements as well, suitable entrance requirements. Like you just mentioned there, whether universities are bending the rules as well as the language-related challenges that our students. Quite often it's noted that B2 is a useful starting point. But there's this assumption that just because students can pass this proficiency test, again, based on native standards, that they can automatically transition to study their entire degree programs through English. So we need a lot more longitudinal studies examining, so different types of students, students at different levels as well, and the types of challenges that those students experience, the ones that drop out, the ones that transition. So there's a need for more longitudinal research and more scrutiny. We need more work here on the challenges as well. How prepared are our students for EMI? A number of challenges are highlighted in the research. So comprehending lengthy lectures, the volume of reading in English that students are given. In Korea, a study found, and this is so concerning, less than a third of students felt they could understand 80% of the subject matter. So given the high fees associated with EMI, given the amount of government funding, this is really concerning that less than a third could understand 80%. Other challenges are students report having insufficient academic English skills. This relates to, so you're raising all of the challenges that I wanted to present here. Reading, writing, so academic skills, a lack of discipline-specific academic vocabulary. So all of these challenges highlight the need for more academic and language support and more research into the best type of support for our students. So we have a growing body of evidence then that highlights the importance of integrating academic and language support for students. We do see an emergence of pre and insertional support classes, but in my own studies, I found that support really varied from one program to another. Very few programs are providing tailor-made context and discipline-specific support, and both faculty and students are critical of the support that's being provided. Again, this all presents numerous challenges, not just for the content lecturer, but for the ELT practitioner, and this is often overlooked, in my opinion. They have increasing opportunities to specialise. We see increased job advertisements for English teacher with science background, English teacher with experience teaching medical students. This is going to have a real impact on teacher training for ELT. I think masters and MEd TESOL programs, for example, are we preparing our future teachers to go and work in EMI settings? So I've started looking recently this expanding role of the English language teacher and calling really for English teachers to have a more central role in the EMI curriculum development process, but also a need for more teacher training for ELT teachers on how to work in these EMI environments as well. And I used this quote yesterday, as Flowerdew points out, while the new role of English for specific academic purposes teachers might be challenging, it might also lead to ELT teachers having a more central and respected role in the university if they are to be key in assisting with implementing EMI policy. Another problematic area is attitudes, the differences we have between staff and student attitudes towards the goals of EMI. If students are enrolling to learn English, but content faculty see the purpose of the programme as teaching content. Materials is another challenge. We need more research here. This again presents a challenge for the ELT practitioner. I, for one, found myself having to design discipline-specific ESAP materials with no knowledge of international business at all. And we've already touched on the irrelevance of transplanting Western curricula into, say, the Thai context here. We also need more research into hiring practices in EMI, native speakerism, again, how we value competency and proficiency as well. Who is a good EMI teacher? And how can we influence faculty hiring decisions as well? What are they valuing when they look for a teacher for their EMI programme? And how can we influence that with our research as well? So I would say that future directions in the research should be how to consult with language acquisition experts, so work more closely with ELT practitioners, more work into collaboration with content and ELT teachers, more research looking at the impact of EMI on English proficiency and how to support students, as well as the impact of all of this on ELT, teacher training, needs analysis. But I think ultimately what we need to do is take a curriculum perspective, and it's time to really evaluate the curricula, the EMI curricula as well, because quality assurance is key here. And that's what I'm going to focus on next. I'm going to skip this breakout room and I'm going to move straight to part 2 because I also have part 3. So let's take a curriculum perspective then. So if we take a curriculum perspective to analysing EMI, a range of questions can be asked. If we look at all the different elements of a curriculum, needs analysis, goals and objectives, syllabus, methodology, assessment, but the key here is evaluating our existing curricula. Is the curriculum coherent? Do the course descriptions include aims, goals? From my studies, I found that they did not, and this resulted in the different attitudes. There was no clear curriculum guidelines, no clear curriculum documents, and are mechanisms in place to monitor teaching quality, for example. So the focus of an evaluation looks at all of these different aspects. So is the programme achieving its goals? If the programme aims to improve English proficiency, sorry, I have to move here, I've been sitting a long time. Is it doing this? What are the learning outcomes of the programme? What about the curriculum design as well? Who's involved? Are we involving ELT practitioners in this design if language learning is also a goal? What's happening at the classroom level? And what about the theoretical underpinnings? What research is informing this? What about the stakeholders? So this relates to, involving all the stakeholders. Are they satisfied with the EMI curriculum? Methodology, comparing the programs to other programs. And what about increased competitiveness? This education is a competitive industry. We've talked already about dwindling student numbers as well, the need to attract students. So if you want your programme to be competitive, then having a sound evaluation procedure in place will help you do this. Richards makes a distinction here between product and process-focused evaluation. As I mentioned then, you know, education is a very accountable industry with increased competitiveness. We see a number of governments around the world now targeting investment in EMI. In China, the C9, in Japan, the Global 30 policies as well. There's real efforts to make the universities competitive internationally. And as Richards points out here, with the global spread of English and the substantial investment required to achieve goals for national education in most countries, curriculum evaluation has become of increasing interest to governments, educators, and curriculum planners. Funding for curriculum projects in many parts of the world is often linked to a requirement to provide evaluation reports that demonstrate accountability, that help guide improvement of ongoing projects and document what happens. I would say that growing research in EMI by a small group of applied linguists is certainly growing and is focusing on a range of issues. But we really need more focused research on curriculum evaluation. And I think a lot of this is being done outside of academia and perhaps not published as well. And this is another reason why we need to work with a range of stakeholders and for researchers to work more closely with curriculum developers. Don't read this long quote I've just highlighted here. Globalization has created a competitive higher education environment. So this highlights the need for having sound curriculum evaluation procedures. You can prove then perhaps that your curriculum is successful, that it's cost effective, that it's achieving its learning outcomes. Again, we note here in this report, for example, the Ministry of Education in China uses EMI as a performance indicator here as well. And again, we see mention of global competitiveness. We do see some focus on quality assurance. So in this report, this is the British Council report here that we were commissioned to write. It's a good summary. It's a literature review of the research on EMI. And in chapter 10, we focus here on quality assurance. So we do see some quality assurance schemes have emerged. The BALIP, British Association of Lecturers of EAP, they have the BALIP accreditation scheme as well. So if you're interested in quality assurance, have a look here. But we also need more. I included the video today in the MOOC with Jim McKinley talking about teacher training here as well. A lot of researchers or curriculum developers or EMI researchers are doing research within their own classrooms, within their own curricula, and they're perhaps not publishing this. So we need to work together here to showcase this valuable work that's being done at the classroom level. We also need evaluations done in an ongoing basis, so in a formative basis, but also in a summative form as well. So to determine the effectiveness of a programme, its efficiency and its impact as well. And again, this would lead to more evidence-based policy making. Curriculum evaluation can take place for a number of reasons, and it really depends on, is it mastery of objectives? How far have the objectives been achieved? Performance on tests? Although we have to think whether that's really so clear-cut. Students may perform better on a test, but they may be taking courses outside of the curriculum as well. How are we measuring acceptability as well? There's lots of factors involved here. I'm going to skip over this. We need to think about how to do the curriculum evaluation. Is it going to be formative? Is it going to be summative after the course? What are you going to focus on as well? And who's going to be involved? Can you apply for funding? Is it going to be a small group of you? And who is the intended audience? So it's important to have a strategic approach to curriculum evaluation, particularly if you want to write it up as well. A number of documentation that could be analysed as well in these EMI curriculum studies, course statistics, course documents, coursework. I didn't do that in my needs analysis. I only had questionnaires, focus groups. So this was a limitation of my own studies in this field as well. I talked about the curriculum documentation and I looked at them, but I didn't analyze this body of work here. A number of methods as well. I'm not going to go in, it's not a research methods lecture, but it's important that the purpose of an evaluation is to promote review, reflection, and revision of the curriculum based on a careful compilation of information from a variety of sources. In order to make decisions based on the evaluation, it's first necessary to review the process of evaluation and to ensure that it was adequately designed. In the Global Englishes research lecture, I talked about the need for more rigorous research as well. So I think when it's not only important to do a curriculum evaluation, but to do this in a very rigorous manner as well. It's also important to be able to evaluate your changes. So a curriculum change usually has more effects than when first planned for. It may involve the retraining of teachers. So your curriculum evaluation may conclude that more training is needed. It may result in an adjustment to curriculum changes. But there's also a need to evaluate your innovation. So the point I'm making here is that your evaluation may result in change and then a further evaluation may be needed. So this is an ongoing process and this should be built in to the EMI process. So it's important for programs, but researchers involved to have a clear plan, thinking about the plan for implementing change as well, thinking about the support for the innovation. Is there support to introduce EMI in the university, materials, and thinking about the context as well. 5 minutes, I'm going to finish on time, part 3. We've talked then about, I've given you some examples of my own work that I've been involved in, some of the findings, some future directions for research, some problems in EMI. I need to have a curriculum perspective to really perhaps stop and slow down, evaluate what we have, what's happening, and use that to inform policy going forward. But how can we increase the impact of our research in this area and influence curriculum developers or policymakers? So if we look then back to EMI and the ELT practitioner, and I mentioned this about how we really need to work together here to collaborate and possibly impact. Research impact is a big buzzword in academia. It's the ultimate goal to influence policy and pedagogy as well. So it's the effect that research has beyond academia. We do have growing networks. I've mentioned ELINet. Excuse me. We have our very first annual conference in April. And this aims to be an online academic network where we can showcase our research findings, work with policymakers, communicate our findings to a wider audience, and work with increased collaboration between teachers and researchers, share resources as well, share data collection instruments. So we have research pages where we want to encourage replication studies. If our colleagues are finding it difficult to find a place to conduct a study, they can use the network to put out a call for participants, for example. We've got a number of different webinars, a YouTube series here. So these were some of the old ones that we had here. But really, what we want to do here is to bring together researchers with various skills and backgrounds, but also include more interdisciplinary work as well, and think about how we can work with our networks and other networks as well, because EMI is a very interdisciplinary phenomenon and research field as well. We have to think then about knowledge exchange, impact, having case studies at different universities. Different stakeholders have different mindsets, policymakers, practitioners, researchers. We all think in different ways as well. So how can we facilitate this collaboration to problematize EMI and inform a more successful and sustainable and evidence-based EMI policy? On the network, we want to show some of our MOOCs as well. So perhaps this is one way that we can try and disseminate our work with short videos of our research. I don't know, I haven't done research into the effectiveness of this, but it would be interesting for us to look, has my research influenced anyone? Have my lectures influenced anyone's way of thinking? And that can then help me as a researcher redesign my own studies or my work as well. So it's important for us as researchers when we're designing our studies to think, well, what could my research change? What could be the implications of my research? And use this to influence the design. Who might be the beneficiaries of my research and how can I make this happen? And then what are the routes to making all of this happen? So it's important, I think, to think about all of this when we're thinking about our research. How should I disseminate my research? Should I continue with academic books, monographs, textbooks? Textbooks are good for teachers. What about policymakers? How can I engage with them? How can I involve curriculum developers, materials writers? And how can I co-produce my research with others, with teachers? I'm optimistic about the network. I'm not sure. I really welcome your thoughts on all of this. I'm going to include the link in a moment for you to sign up. And I'd like this to be a platform for all of us to think about this together and to work together on this as well. So just to finish then, the future directions, I think that we need to think about what areas need to be explored. I've given you some insights today, what contexts, what approaches to use, methods, but also thinking about our impact of our work as well, and also providing opportunities for our successful researchers to share their experience. Our new ELINet network also has a capacity building goal. We've got a number of early career researchers in global Englishes and also EMI. And I'm constantly trying to introduce PhD students and early career researchers in the field to form communities via email. So we really hope that the network will help them work together and also build their own capacity as well. I'm going to skip over that. And here is the link to register. You can also, if you go to this link here, register.elinet.org.uk, you can register here. The website will be up by the end of the week. I can show you a little what it looks like, but I will move to time for questions. But you can stay informed here, join the mailing list, and it's a way for us to continue these conversations after lectures.
Actually, Professor, you can have, you have some time to show us here how the platform look like, the ELINet one.
Okay. Well, I was hoping that I stop share. I've lost my link now to Zoom to share. Where are you? Here you are. Okay, so this is what the ELINet website looks like. We have the content's being uploaded web team yesterday and today, but you can see we've got our logo here. We've got different teaching resources, research instruments. We've got training, consultancies, so lots of links to professional development resources as well, lots of links to research training resources, events and opportunities. So we've got reading groups, ELINet seminar series. We would like to advertise these seminar series on here as well for you. We've got the annual ELINet conference, and we link to a lot of external events as well. We post funding calls here, calls for collaboration. So if you're looking for a research project to join, or you're looking for a research partner, then you can post here as well. We've got a number of different educational context ELINet branches. Not all of them are showing here. We've got Thailand. I think we've got about 15 different ELINet branches. So you would click in here, and then you would see there's lots of information about Indonesia, about English language education in Indonesia, EMI in Indonesia. We have the same for Thailand. I think that content's ready, Yusuf. So for each ELINet branch, we've got an overview of like EMI in Thailand, how English is used in Thailand, and then lots and lots of resources.
Professor,
yes.
could you please send this link in the chat box because I haven't found it?
I will. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's EMI network as well. I haven't found it in the YouTube. Why? I don't know.
If you look, we've got a Twitter, and I think we've now just moved from YouTube to Vimeo. So if you look for ELINet Twitter and YouTube, you should be able to find that. We've got the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at the bottom here, but if you register here.
Yeah, for the Facebook, we need to like type everything there, right?
What do you mean type everything?
This is your Gmail, right? Or this is the Facebook? Register Elite.
This is a temporary registration for you today because it won't be ready until the end of the week on the actual website. But you can also use, so if you click on this link, register.elinet, you should be able to register there.
Okay, thank you. How about Facebook? Will you use Facebook as well?
So we use Facebook as well, and Twitter and Vimeo, and we have a podcast series as well. Any questions, any problems, this is the email address here. It's not working?
Yes, I'm registering right now.
Okay. Okay, so I'll stop then, everybody, for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, such a wonderful and interesting talk. Thank you very much indeed, as a Professor Dr. Nicola and Galloway. Now it's time for the Q&A section, comments, sharing. So please feel free to write down your question in the chat box of the Zoom, or you can switch on your microphone and ask live. Everyone's welcome. Please.
Good morning, Professor. I guess it's morning for you still, right?
It is. It's 9:45.
Right. I'm Cholati. I'm a master student, and I'm kind of like interested to study teacher beliefs and their practices in the EMI context. So I would like to ask for your recommendation. What do you have a specific framework for me to really use to analyze teacher beliefs and their practices in this EMI context? Thank you.
Yes, and I would hope that the network will be able, so if you send me an email, then I'll put you in touch with there's a group of PhD students that are also exploring this topic as well. And what we want to do on the network is to be able for you to post a comment like this, for example, and then for members of the community to be able to suggest frameworks and to continue that discussion going forward. But yes, so there's lots of frameworks to look at teacher cognition or teacher beliefs as well. But again, it depends on, we could spend half an hour talking about this, but if you email me and then I can recommend some sources.
Yes, thank you very much. So the email that I can email you is the one that you send in the chat box.
Yes, and I'll also put my own email address here.
Thank you very much.
Here you go.
Thank you very much, Professor.
And actually, I presented Aya Montecanti Wong's work when I presented Global Englishes. She did her PhD on teacher cognition in relation to Global Englishes, and I think she drew on Simon Borg's work there. But if you email me, and then we can have a chat.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, I will email you as well, okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You have a group like PhD students there, right?
Yes, we have a student, there's a student community and an alumni ELINET community as well, and they're really active. So there's a reading group, you can suggest readings, and then they meet to discuss work. Members of the advisory panel, so more senior scholars will come and give some talks as well. So we've been working on this for quite a few years, and hopefully I hope that it's a useful network for everyone, and really capacity building and developing early career research in this area is one of our main goals.
That's great. Thank you very much.
We also have a PhD and dissertation database, so you can go and you can look at all of the EMI PhD theses. We have reading lists, so you can search by topic as well. So, and the student committee have been working on creating these. So yeah, hopefully it will be useful. Hopefully.
Wow, that's
It's been busy.
yeah. Professor, I just sent an email already. Huh?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Professor,
Yes.
my name is Marita. I just want to ask if
Yeah,
if you know of any research that has something to do with EMI and literature, English literature, for example, in the context of, let us say, Thailand.
No.
Similar context, countries that are not really speaking in English. Are there like exploration on how much interested are English learners into learning literature?
English literature as a discipline.
Yes. Or any literature, maybe world literature, but written in English. It doesn't matter. I just want to look into how much interest do English learners have in terms of learning English through literature. And the context will be countries that are not native speakers of English.
I can't think of any. The ELINET Thailand section of the network has a reading list. So we've asked, Yusuf is one of the coordinators, we've asked each ELINET branch to collate relevant literature in their context and add to the reading list. I'm not sure if there's any at the moment off the top of my head, if there's any specific studies on that topic. I can certainly look at, we have a very extensive reading list and the Thai team will have collated those for Thailand. But I think your point relates to the need that, you know, we need EMI research in a number of different disciplines and contexts as well. And so I'm not aware off the top of my head of any that have been done in the field of literature, but I can certainly look at the reading list, and once the network is live as well, hopefully that will enable you to have a look through all the studies that have been conducted. So on the network, we've got network publications and then a really extensive reading list. So hopefully it will work as quite a good search engine for you.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Professor, I have to ask you a suggestion. Yes, can I?
Of course.
Thank you. And then so it's very interesting point of view that you mentioned about the EMI is kind of be considered as a multidisciplinary, right? And then so because I have the background in English language education, but it's now I'm doing PhD in human resource and organization development. So I'm interested some kind like you know, want to study about the compensation management, or is some kind like a benefit, or yeah, the compensation, the salary, you know, for the teacher that who are a lecturer in the university that use the policy of EMI, right? It is based on my experience. So the salary or the benefit they receive, you know, it's not the big difference at all, even like the same as a Thai program as well. And some of my co-worker from the previous workplace that use EMI, it's mentioned that, okay, some of them kind of like think about, you know, it's a burden, right? It's a big responsibility. It's like documenting, and they have to prepare themselves a lot, you know, to teach in English, right? And develop the course syllabus, PowerPoint slide, teaching material, lesson plan. But there's another group is said that, oh, it's a benefit, right? And you can improve your English and, you know, teach in English, you know, it's kind of like two different point of view. But it's some big group, you know, of the lecturer says that it's kind of like the money, the salary, the incentive that they get, you know, when they have to follow the EMI policy is not fair, you know, for them at all, because it's a big burden, big responsibility. They have to put a lot of effort, right? Hard work, you know, for that. And then kind of like in the field, in the perspective, the view of human resource development is kind of like, I really, you know, want to do research, you know, in this kind of area, because it seems to be like the good combination between like human resource development and also the EMI context, you know, something that any other suggestions that I can do, or like to build a collaboration and doing research, you know, in the future probably. Yeah.
I think that given your background and your focus in it, human resources, I think that we really do need more interdisciplinary research area as well. And I think that this issue of equity and compensation really needs and discrimination as well. And I think native speakerism as well, and this idea of what it means to be a competent EMI teacher really, really does need to be addressed. I mean, even if we look at the field of global Englishes, 80% of the world's English teachers are non-native speakers. It's the only occupation in the world where the majority faces discrimination. And speaking to lecturers at the ground level, that particularly the difference between content professors' salaries and ELT teachers' salaries as well. And should this change now with EMI as well, if there's more of a dual focus? So I don't have the answers, but I would say that you need to do research with a range of different stakeholders, decision makers, as well as HR representatives as well. But I would say not just the content, but also, I mean, yeah, the workloads that the burden that EMI is being placed. Some teachers are obligated. The research shows that they feel pressured, obligated. So they don't actually want to teach on the EMI program, but because they obtained their doctorate in another country, they're almost forced to, so they're negotiating extra salary. So I think there's a lot going on here. I'm still listening, but I'm just going to plug in my computer because I've noticed my battery. I'm still here. My plug's just here.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much, Professor. Very very useful recommendation. So I do more research about that. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just plugging in.
Doctor, could you please confirm your email, whether the emails provided correct? Because someone is asking whether the emails is wrong or the one that you sent just now.
Is it the Elinet one that's not working? Connect?
No, I mean that another one, Nicola. Hello.
I think that
So
the email is already correct
That's
because
correct.
I've seen the speaker many times.
why I cannot send it out?
Maybe have to check your network or yeah, because I use this email to discuss and talk to professor many times, so I think the email is already correct.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay.
Let me just check.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Okay, so thank you very much for your cooperation and interaction with deep and insightful knowledge. So I'm strongly confident that we have learned a lot from the section regarding researching EMI. But it's really challenging and for Thailand because there are several factors affecting this: teachers, lecturers, students, policymakers, curriculum, and so on. So hopefully we can don't give up in EMI. Ladies and gentlemen, as already mentioned earlier, that there are two forms to complete before gonna end our section. So the first one is evaluation form. We need your feedback, and it will be beneficial to us for the improvement. And the second one is the link of the certificate. Don't forget to fill out the form, and you can pick it later from the links. Okay, the project manager, you already sent?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
Yes.
I already sent both the evaluation link and certificate link, so please everyone complete the evaluation form, which is very important for us in order to improve our future, our project, and also important for our speaker, So, moderator, would you like, Nura, do you have anything to present? Yes, the next event.
Yes, okay. During the time we are waiting for finishing the form, I would like to introduce you to the next event. Please join us. It's very interesting. The topic is learning to unlearn 40 beliefs and practices in ELT by the invited speaker, Dr. Willie Renendra from Nanyang Technological University, NTU, Singapore. The
And
time
this
is
going, and this going to be our final sessions under PSU Open Mobility 2024.
Oh, so like a farewell, huh?
Yeah, and here is a link for registering, I mean, the last session. So everyone, please join us. So Professor Nicola, thank you very much for delivering the first sessions, accordingly of the talk under the PSU Open Mobility 2022. Regarding what you have shared and contributed to us, they were very, practical and thought-provoking sessions. We do really hope that to have had a chance to invite you again, either, virtual, or in person in the future. So for today, thank you very much again for accepting our invitation.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you. It's been excellent, really enjoyable. Thank you.
So for today, maybe it's time to say goodbye. And then everyone, please have a nice day. And see you again next month, again as the last session. And we do really hope to see you, Professor Nicola Galloway, by the end of this year in person in Thailand, hopefully.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to jump off now because I have a meeting with my students.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Sure. Enjoy your day and enjoy your meeting.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you everyone, all participants. See you.
Hi, I still can't send the email. What's going on here?
Oh, you can't move on yet,
What should I do?
I tried many times. I
many
make
times.
sure everything is correct. Yeah, but I cannot.
Let me check. Let me check from my email. Okay, let me check.
Okay. It always
You
shows
try
like.
to copy her type. I mean,
let me check.
yeah.
Let me stop pausing first. Recording.